Welcome to another episode of the LogiCast. My name is BlankaKong. I'm joined by Esoteric Skills and Gunner EOS. Today's topic is an unfortunate one, but one that can't say we haven't seen coming. Um,
Yeah.
PlayStation, rather, PS5 owners lose access to hundreds of games as digital purchases are wiped from their accounts. This happened a week ago from today, so this happened in early March, and this only affected about less than 100 people. So luckily, it's not a widespread thing. But the strange bug is removing people's games on PlayStation 4 and 5 and Vita, and Sony does not have a fix. It wasn't long ago that PlayStation sparked fan outrage when it said it would remove Disney video content from people's libraries, even though they had paid for it, which we did discuss a few weeks ago. PlayStation later backtracked, but a similar unintentional issue has now come up, a random bug that's wiping digital games from people's libraries. At least 50 PlayStation owners have reported that their digital games, are going missing. Uh, One affected by the bug went on Reddit to explain and to vent his frustration. For the last few months, there's been a bug impacting a relatively small amount of PlayStation Network users, in which all digital licenses, including purchased games and titles added to one's library via the PlayStation Plus, become decoupled from your transaction history, which shows you purchased those things. Um, this is from a user named DSuds. Uh, the bug wipes games from your account, and to make it worse, that if you're affected by the bug, you can't re-download the missing games as your PlayStation account won't let you. So it literally deletes the game from your system, removes the license, and removes the purchase history from your account history so that you can't reclaim it. The only thing you can do is to at this point is to gather receipts for all the games that you want to reclaim and send it to Sony so that they can either reimburse you or somehow fix the problem. But as of right now, where today's March 15th, there is no fix for it. There might be a fix, hopefully there is, but there is no current fix. So people have lost
Yeah.
hundreds of games, thousands, tens of thousands of dollars probably, right? Because I'm sure people have lost things dating back to PS3, probably, I'm guessing. Um, Even if we're just talking PS4, PS5, Vita, I mean, Vita came out, what, in 2010? 11, something like that?
Damn, I
Something
don't know.
something along. It was quite a while though. It was
We're
it
talking
was
almost 15
it's
years ago. And the PlayStation 4 is definitely a decade old, right? That's a lot of history, man. That's a lot of games to lose. Especially if you bought them like at launch, full price. That hurts.
Yeah.
So, what are your initial thoughts on this unfortunate situation?
Uh,
um I guess I'll go first.
yeah, go for it.
I am typically not a, conspiracy theorist or whatever. I usually don't subscribe to those things. However, I think this is going to be a very, very, uh, based on my take, is going to be like maybe a part of that particular ideology, so to speak. I think that this isn't necessarily a bug. I think this is Sony's way of testing people's accounts and removing things from there to see what the outrage would be, to see how people would react to their content being removed. Because for you to have a plan to remove discovery content and how people that backfired, and then you pretty much reneged on that whole idea, and then for this to happen, it's way too within a small time frame, I would say, as well, include. um I feel like that's way too big of a coincidence, and their way to kind of cover their tracks. Although, customers who've purchased content, I've purchased a lot of digital content from Sony due to the fact that the physical media was unobtainable. Um, so I think with them, what they're trying to do as a cop out, is to say that there isn't a fix for it, and that we need to have receipts in order for them to reimburse us, and they know damn well that a lot, unless you're super organized or you're someone who has an archive of receipts, there's no way to prove that you had those purchases. So in my humblest opinion, I think that it's a tactic in which that Sony is trying to remove these content from their user base that already acquired them, have them on their streaming services where you have to pay like a monthly fee for their subscription to access them, because let's be for real, the most of the physical media that you have acquired that was probably digital um is going to be very hard to obtain nowadays, given like uh the inflation of prices and the rarity of that item. Because try buying a Vita game now, you're looking at maybe 60-70 bucks for that game, based off of how.
Depends on what it is, yeah.
Yeah, it depends on how what it is, how scarce it is obtaining it. You're paying an obscene amount of money for it. um yeah, that's pretty much my take. I think it was all a tactic. They're trying to test the waters, because I mean, why didn't it happen to a more, why wasn't it a widened base? Why it only happened to a select fewer people? This had to be like a targeted attack on some of the users within some. I mean, this is just me. This is
The
just me,
the
my
CIA and
speculations.
Sony got him.
This is just my speculations. I could absolutely be wrong. I don't know the logistics behind it, but it's way too coincidental. It's way too targeted, because it's a small number of people. It wasn't like I don't know if you guys recall back in the days where I think they were hacked, and then like everyone was not able to
Oh,
utilize their.
that really, yeah, that really big Sony hack where they DDoSed their server and nobody could get
2010,
online.
right?
Yeah,
Online. Yeah.
yeah. I believe it was in 2010. And nobody was able to access their accounts. So in this particular case, it's a small number of people that are affected. Sony has been pushing the narrative of taking away digital accounts from people. So I think this is their way of testing the waters, and people are going to continue to play Sony games. They're going to continue to buy stuff from them. They'll be a little more apprehensive when it comes to their physical content. However, you're not going to protest the system. You're not going to protest Sony. So this is not going to be much repercussions on their part. So yeah, and people have a tendency of forgetting things that happen to them when they get burned, and doing the whole perpetuating cycle over and over and over again. So that's pretty much my take on that.
It was
All right.
2011. 2011.
Damn.
Oh, okay, 2011.
Feels like last year. I'm gonna. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what to make of this. It could, it could be, like you say, esoteric. It could be like a small scale experiment. YouTube does this too, where they'll say they're rolling out, like little changes, but it only affects like certain users in Brazil, Kuwait or something.
Mm-hmm.
It could be that, but like I tend to maybe believe it that it's kind of a bug, because this is a very weird thing to like affect not only the PlayStation 5, their current flagship system, but the 4, the 3, and the Vita. 2 systems, the PlayStation 3 and Vita, who were scheduled to be decommissioned. I mean, I guess if it's all connected to the same PSN account, it doesn't matter, as long as if it's a game on that PSN account, it could go. But the fact that it also it decouples it from your transaction history, so you can't even like your transaction history essentially disappears. It no longer exists, which is why people can't re-download the games, because according to the system, you never bought that game in the first place. I don't know, so that's like really, either it's horrifically nefarious from Sony, or it actually is a bug. I'm personally leaning more towards the bug as the solution, as the problem, but it could be a nefarious test.
I
What?
mean, again, I don't typically dabble in the whole conspiracy, discussions and whatnot, but it's just way too coincidental. It's a finite number of people that are being affected, and like it also removes the transactions because I'm thinking with the older, okay, PS5 understandable, but and PS4 okay, but PS3, the Vita, it's like, there's a small amount of people that probably go back to those games typically that are downloaded that can only be accessible to those systems. So, I mean, me personally, I would love for it to be the lesser of two evils, which is it's an honest bug, and Sony is working diligently to fix that. But I don't know, like something that removes not only the content in which you purchase, but all archive data of you purchasing it. That is insane. That's mind-boggling.
It is. No, it 100% is. Oof. And I know somebody mentioned in the article how Sony's customer support sucks. That's 100% true.
Oh yeah.
I've thankfully never had to deal with them myself, but they are notoriously hard to get a hold of, hard to get an actual person, and hard to get any sort of like clarification or results or like, how to get anything done from them. Like these guys, it's a meme at this point where if you buy anything digital from Sony, you're pretty much not going to get a refund unless we're hitting Cyberpunk or Suicide Squad levels of just bad game, where you literally could cite Suicide Squad is a fraud. I did not get the product that I thought I was going to receive, and by law, Sony has to issue refunds. So I could imagine if you wake up one morning and log in to play Helldivers or something, and you bought that digitally, and you see not just Helldivers, but all of your games fucking vanish, I'd imagine that you calling Sony is not going to get you anywhere. You're going to get the run around, you're going to get the automated response, and it's going to take you hours to get a real person, and they'll just give you a boilerplate response of, "Oh, we're sorry this affected you. We're gonna go look into it, and we'll get back to you with any news." And
Yep.
the fact that this is only at least of the writing of this article we're referencing, it's only affected 50 people. When you take into account the amount of people around the world using the PlayStation Network and the PlayStation the PlayStation console, 50 is like a speck in the universe. So it's fucked up, but Sony really doesn't have that much of an incentive to act immediately unless, God forbid, because I don't want this shit happening to me. It starts affecting more and more people and becomes like a widespread problem. So, yeah, I don't know, man. That's rough because I'm looking I'm looking at my own library, and between the PlayStation 3, Vita, and P4 and P5, I mean, I try to get try to get physical when I can, but I
Yeah.
do have a decent amount of digital games.
Same.
I'd be pretty livid if I woke up one morning, turned on my PS5, and just all of them were gone, and it was like I never bought them in the first place. So, I can sympathize with these people, and I can understand their anger. It's a lot of money that just kind of vanished, but that's kind of, that's kind of the game you play when you go all digital. Like, if 1-0 gets placed before another 1 and causes a glitch in the matrix, all of your games are gone.
Yeah.
Whereas, only an act of God or a house fire can take away a physical collection or
Yeah.
theft or whatever the case may be. I don't know, man. I don't even want to think about it.
So the article continues.
No, nothing.
There's just a little section to go. The user who first reported it on Reddit says, "I'm never buying a digital game from PlayStation again. Horrible customer support.
Yeah, I bet.
Terrible practices toward their customers." Another posted pleaded for answers as they lost access to over 400 games after trying to restore them
Ooh.
once the bug hit their account,
man.
adding, This is a quote from the second user. I'm a PlayStation user ever since PlayStation 3. This account bug is really bad. I hope Sony and PlayStation give a real solution, and if someone knows how to resolve this huge problem, please let us know.
Yeah.
The original poster, D-Suds, became aware of the bug when they tried to launch Helldivers 2, but got an error message.
Oh, shit.
Funny enough.
Wow.
CE-117773-6. Then they tried to restore their license in their account settings, which wiped their library. So he tried.
Oh my god.
He tried to launch Helldivers. He got an error message. Checked his account. Tried to restore the license, and then he got hit with the fucking apocalypse on his account. Everything. He lost everything. They advise against trying to restore licenses, as they believe that's what triggered the bug in the first place. PlayStation is yet to comment on the issue publicly, but it is aware of it, according to D-Suds, the original poster. Metro has also reached out to Sony for comment. I'm assuming Metro is like a news outlet for video games. Another poster has kept track of everyone affected by the bug, with almost 50 people reporting the same issue, some of which say it started months ago. So this isn't a new thing. This started somewhere in 2023. Though it doesn't appear to affect most players, a library wiping bug would be a huge problem for Sony if it escalates further. For now, those affected will just have to hope for a fix. Though when that comes, nobody knows. So it's affecting a small amount of people. And this could be affecting all of us right now. We just don't know it, right? There's so many games that are like in my system as a digital game that I haven't played, haven't touched, probably ever in some cases. So there could be a ticking time bomb download in your account right now that you don't know about. And the moment you try to play that game and you get hit with this error message, once you see CE-117773-6, it's cut your losses with that game. Because that...
And all other games, too.
Well, if you try to restore the license for whatever game you try to load up, in this case, it was Helldivers 2 for this guy, which is a new game. It wipes your library. So you lose everything. It nukes the whole thing, which is fucking madness. So for digital-only players, that's huge. And considering, there's a digital-only PlayStation 5, and there are a lot of people, I don't know what the percentage is as far as PlayStation 5 owner population, but there's a lot of people who have gone full digital. And I get it. Like, the convenience of having your games loaded onto the console and backed up on the server via your account is super convenient as far as space is concerned, as far as convenience is concerned. But being able to just getting your whole account nuked, that's huge. It's huge.
And to add to your point, Kong, for Sony to come out with a digital only console.
Yeah.
So I feel bad for the folks who have the first model digital only. It's not like the newest model where you can add the driver attachment to it. The old one, you can't do that at all. So you're pretty much screwed. All your content.
You're stuck. You have a brick of a console. Well, not a brick per se, but like you'd have to like re-download the games, try a new account, like or eat the loss, which I think most people wouldn't to do. At least I wouldn't. Like if my whole game library was digital and I lost all of it with no way to recover it, and I'm expected to buy everything again, I'm done. Like that system is getting.
Yeah.
That's a no-brainer.
No,
that's
100%.
You're at this point your digital PS5 becomes a paperweight, because anybody who's privy to what's going on is not going to buy it off of you, no matter what the amount is, and no one is going to take that chance to pump funds into a console that's digital only, due to the fact that you could potentially lose all your data.
It's funny you say that, right? So it could be a hardware thing, or it could be select consoles. We don't know that, but anybody who's selling a PlayStation, but let's say it is a hardware issue. Let's say it is somehow, particular consoles that have been zapped with this bug. They're not going to report that. Like, if I'm taking this console to a pawn shop or to a GameStop, or I'm selling it online, as long as it plays games, I don't need to tell you that there's no Carfax for PlayStation for consoles, right? So, like...
Yeah, it acts like a Trojan horse. So like, it plays accordingly, but...
If you're in the market for a used PS5, you might just buy one, assuming this is like a hardware thing, which I don't think it is. I think it's a software. I think it could be a conspiracy. You know, to go back to what you said earlier, it could be a conspiracy theory. It could be something that they're trying. Right? Let's see what happens. Right? Let's see what this backlash looks like. Let's make sure we don't hit too many accounts. Right? A controlled experiment. It could be that. Right? I wouldn't doubt it. I don't think that's the case, but I mean, would it shock me if that was the case? Not particularly.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, it's really unfortunate. But this I'm gonna sound like a broken record, but like we're gonna. When the moment I knew this was gonna be a topic, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna say it again. Physical media is the it is the way, and I know for some people like space is an issue. I get it. Like I've got almost 1,000 games in my collection. I don't keep the cases to my game, which I know is sacrilege to most people. I only keep cases for like certain games, like PlayStation 1 games. I'll keep small. I keep the cover art. I have the cover art tucked away in somewhere in my closet, just in case I change my mind in 10 years or whatever, or I decide to,
It's easy to buy like a replacement
I
case.
can buy a case
Yeah.
and just even though I don't think that I will, I think I'm going to stick to disc only collection because I don't intend on selling it. This is a collection for me to keep to have until I die. I understand that there's like Wolf, for example. He is more of a digital player because he has children and they're pretty rough with physical media, and so it's just easier for him to just have the games loaded up and just be able to switch games on the fly with the console itself.
Yeah.
So I understand. There's a legitimate like argument for digital game. I'm not against digital all the way. I think there's uses for it, but if I don't know, I think you're better off if it's a game that you see yourself playing for like the larger course of your air quotes gaming career. I say get a hard copy. If it's a sports game that you're only gonna play for like 10 months, sure, get it digital because you're never gonna fucking play it again. But yeah, so this is another lesson, another mark on the checklist of reasons not to go full digital.
Yeah, I mean, also the crazy thing I just thought about is that this also can impact the games you play, or this could have an even worse impact if you're playing certain types of games. So, like if you're playing Genshin Impact or Call of Duty, and if you invested hundreds of dollars into like your character in Genshin or your whatever guns or character, and then like that's all digital. There is no physical for that, and then all of a sudden the game is gone. I mean, maybe it's less because you have like an account that's separate. So maybe
that's what I was gonna say. Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe that's not as good as an example as I thought it would be. But
No, but you're onto something, Gunner, because like think about games like Street Fighter where you're paying for the DLC. Like, is that a part of the bug as well? Like, are those being
Well, I mean, it's
erased
content
from the
that you
console?
purchase on the PlayStation Store, so
Yeah.
likely, right? Think about people who buy like a ton of skins on a game like Street Fighter or Dead or Alive. If you were one of those people who spent thousands of dollars on bikinis, like you got hit with this bug, that content is on, and like
Yep, and expansion only games like Elden Ring is coming out, and it's expansion only.
Yeah, now that's gonna that's gonna get me slightly paranoid now. Just like,
I mean that hurts
Oh my
less.
God.
Like if I lost my expansion for Elden Ring, that would suck. But like I could stomach the $40 re-up if it really boiled down to it. I'd probably take like a 6 to 12 month break from playing Elden Ring if it did happen to me though, especially if I'm in the middle of playing the DLC. But to lose hundreds of games,
yeah, like this person here with 400
that's
games.
equivalent to like having a house fire and just watching your collection burn. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
400 games. If you time that by $60,
I mean, let's say
65.31.
Let's say 250 of those games were per. and 150 were PlayStation Plus free games. I think it's more reasonable. 250 times 60, not including taxes, we're talking 15K.
Yep. That's a down payment on a house.
That's down payment on a car, right? And a good rate. That's a lot of money. I mean, that's not a lot of money, but like it's a lot of money to just lose because of a random
Yeah.
on your console. That's crazy. That's some people's yearly salaries. We're talking like entry level work in certain fields. That's that's a whole year's of work right there.
Yeah.
Especially for gamers.
I just can't.
Gamers are fucking poor, generally speaking. So
yeah, like I can't imagine, coming home from a hard day's work. I'm looking to pretty much wind down, enjoy a good night's game, for the rest of the night, maybe catch a bite afterwards or maybe before, and just, let loose and just relinquish all worries for the day or the week or whatever. And then come to find out you have another problem. You can't even play your games. That is, oh my God, that is painful. That is like,
I could tell you, I've had when I used to work at GameStop, I would have customers come in. I mean, grown men on the verge of tears, sometimes tearing, telling me how their console doesn't work anymore. They're worried about their 2K progress and like, oh my God, I can't believe it. Like, you gotta help me, man. And that's not like repair services are not a thing we do. It's not a thing we're trained to do at all. But I try to help those guys out. Typically, I just take a look at the system, and it's usually like the weird, like, there was either a power outage or plug the system mid, while playing it, and so they got the weird error where like you have to like update. You have to put the update on the USB and load it up that way or whatever.
Yeah,
I've helped a few people recover their accounts, reset their consoles because they casual gamers, they don't really know, like, what do you mean turn on the console in safe mode? Talking about. And so I would do that for them, right? And like to give them the reassurance, like, hey man, listen, as long as you know your password for your account, just sign in and like your progress is saved to the server. So as long as the server's not fried, then you should be okay. And like I've had people like thank me like I've never been thanked before for recovering their accounts and stuff like that, or helping them recover their console. Because it's not a cheap hobby, dude. I think about this guy who lost 400 games. Think about
how much saves they got on that.
Not just the saves, but like even worse than that, people who play games like FIFA, 2K, Madden, those games which are super predatory with their microtransactions. I've seen these guys drop hundreds of dollars a week on these games to lose all of that. That hurts. And I mean, like I said, it's saved to the server, but like who knows the extent of like what this bug can do, right? Sony doesn't even know.
Yeah.
So like if they don't fucking know, what are we messing with here, right? It's a big deal.
True. Well, in regards to the sports games, if it's a game that you're playing within the year, because typically those players, they're like, once the new year comes, they buy the new game, and anything prior is pretty much on the back burner. But to have like a current game that you're playing, like you said, FIFA, NBA 2K.
Even if it's like, let's say, this is all hypothetical now, but let's say, let's take NBA 2K. Let's say we have somebody, a hypothetical person who's been playing like seriously playing since like 2K18, say, right?
Yeah. Okay.
I'm pretty sure, like me, I like to go through old save files just for nostalgia reasons, just to be like, oh, I remember this, I remember that, and just to see the history, the timestamp, right? The amount of time I played the game, where I was at, all the armors I unlocked, all the achievements that I acquired, whatever. Yeah. I'm pretty sure for those guys, that also matters. So like them being able to go back to 2K18, look at their pulls from that game, and look at their character builds from that game. Oh, I remember being this type of whatever. Like I don't know.
That's true.
But like the point is that data is important to that particular person, and whether I can understand it or not, I can understand the sympathy behind it. Like I can understand why it matters, right? I don't care, right, about my player. Just like they don't care about my Monster Hunter 4 data that I lost 10 years ago. Like, they don't care, but like I'm sure if I explain to them, yeah, that's 500 hours of work, they're like, damn, like they understand the pain behind the
Yeah,
work.
yeah,
So that's
Yeah.
why
yeah.
I sympathize for these guys, even though I don't, we're in different categories of gamer, right? We're still gamers. We're still under the same umbrella. And so for these guys who lost their games, man, that sucks, bro. And I hope that I hope that situations like this prolong these companies from going
The
full
push.
digital. I hope that
Yeah.
these are like little roadblocks that make them hesitate a little bit. Like, shit, like maybe we shouldn't go full digital yet. Maybe it's not. Maybe the world isn't ready for that.
Or at
Yeah.
all, right?
Or at all.
Like
But
at
I think
all,
it's
because
I think it's inevitable.
I think it's an inevitability. I wished it wasn't, and I would push back a couple years ago, but yeah, it's gonna happen. But
it's just I don't. I mean, again, we can acknowledge some of the benefits of going digital in terms of like physical space and in terms of convenience and whatnot. However, it will benefit them as well going full digital. However, that is a huge responsibility. Like, to have everything full digital will be an increase in server space, which they would have to spend a lot of money on, just for save data, just for games, things of that nature, just to archive their whole entire library. And, for them to do that will require an uptake in funds, just to control, you know, I don't know, man. I just see this being a disaster in the future if anything goes full digital. And the funny thing is, for what was it, for Sony to make fun of Microsoft for the glorified installation disc or whatever, like they would have the funny jab commercials and things like that, and then to kind of potentially take on that marketing strategy, it's crazy. It's, I don't know, but I'm not a big business person. Maybe there's something that they foresee that I am not seeing. But I think that's when they go full digital, if any of these companies go full digital, that's when I'm gonna kind of like backtrack and just focus on my archive of games that I
yeah,
have in my library, honestly, because I can't sit there and be like, oh, I'm playing this game, and then I want to revisit a game in the next couple of months, days, months, years, and so on, and then come to find out this game is no longer supported in your library because we have taken it. Like, I don't know.
it's sketchy, man. It's a gamble, and today it's 50 people. What happens if something down the line is 50,000 or
I mean,
500,000?
it could easily be
Right?
everybody because, like I said in the article it posted, he became aware of the bug after trying to launch a specific game, a game that just came out. So we don't know how this bug
Yeah,
works. It could be any
yeah,
game, right? I mean, I'd have to like look at the Reddit thread to see what other games people are mentioning, right? But it could be something as old as like Killzone on PS4, like the first Killzone game or something like. Oh, let me play Killzone. I haven't played it in a while, and then you get hit with this error, and you're unaware why this error exists, and then you try to restore the license,
yeah.
and then boom, you get hit with the bug, right? Like that could
Yeah.
happen. It could be like a domino thing. I hope not, right? But I'm saying it could easily
Whew.
be a snowball domino effect where like more and more people get hit with this bug, and then if that happens, I mean, Sony is going to be in heat. Like this is like lawsuit city.
Oh, this is how
Yeah,
this is how you lose um your player base. This is how people go to Xbox or take the plunge and just invest in a PC. Because like
yeah.
if I'm all digital anyway, I might as well just go on PC.
I
Um,
mean, th- this is very enlightening because what I plan to do once this podcast is done, I'll probably take snapshots of my entire like archive of what I've purchased just to have it in case Sony is like, oh well, there's nothing we can do. There's no trace of what you've purchased. Oh, I have screenshots. I have them right here. Here you go.
That's what I recommend. If anybody listening to this wants to know if their system is infected, this is risky, but you could try launching every game in your library to see if you ever get hit with this message.
Shit, no.
Or you could just like screenshot your purchases, have your receipts ready, and just archive it somewhere to where like if you get hit with this shit, at least you got something. If I get hit with this bug, I personally don't care because I've been slowly kind of moving away from digital and going back to physical media. So like a lot of the games that I have downloaded, I have hard copy. So if I were to get hit with this bug tomorrow, like I would just shrug it off and be like, oh well, it is what it is. Lost money. What can you do?
Ooh, man. Imagine the people who because this did affect PS3 users, right?
Yeah, basically.
Imagine the
Did it
people
specifically say PS3? Now I'm tempted to turn on my PS3 and like see what's going on with her, but
because I feel bad for the PT users, the ones who downloaded that demo.
Oh,
And that shit is
that's
gone.
another one. Yeah, that's rough. Losing PT, that's
Yeah.
a rough one.
Or the Ninja Turtles game that was remade and it was only a digital. You can only purchase it digital. Like, oof. Oh my god.
I mean, this isn't the first time that we had like glitches similar to this. Like, I don't know if you guys remember a few years ago, back when Sony was talking about removing the PlayStation Store for PS3. There was and then there was like an insurgence of people buying PS1 classics. I'm raising my hand. Part of that, part of that group of people. There was like a glitch, so where it wouldn't allow people to play certain games. I think Chrono Cross or whichever was a Chrono Trigger.
Chrono Trigger.
It was that game and something else that like wasn't playing, and then they would go into like the game's like information, and it was like this game was published in 1900 or something like.
Oh, I heard about
Yeah,
that.
so, like,
yeah, it was like.
Oh,
yeah.
So
wow.
because of that weird glitch, they weren't able to access the content, and it would affect other parts of their library as well. So like Sony, they got like some like weird kinks in their programming with their PlayStation Store that who knows. Like I feel like this whole infrastructure is being held up with like 20-year-old duct tape, and at any moment
Probably
it can
is.
fucking fall apart because. The Esoteric you mentioned before, like how Sony has pivoted and like how they would make fun of Microsoft one particular time period, and now they're like adopting the same policies or the same business strategies that they were once making fun of. But the reality is these companies are ran by people, and there are new people put into position every few years. There's a new president, there's a new executive manager,
That's
whatever.
true.
And so the company is going to reflect that leadership change and whatever those people think is best for the brand, which might not line up with past ambassadors that have worked there. So,
True.
with that being said, think about how many programmers have worked on the PlayStation Network infrastructure and how different programmers have different like philosophies and different ways of building, and like it I can only imagine what the code looks like for that whole thing. Like how did they keep that all together and all linked between different consoles, Vita, PS3, PS4, PS5? I don't know.
Yeah.
So these glitches are bound to happen, which is why I think digital is cancer. I think all digital 100% is cancerous. It's bad for the consumer, it's bad for the industry, and it's bad for just the customer experience. I think physical media is honestly the way to go. Although there's a finite amount of physical media that we can hold, right? Like me and Gunnar were at Book Off the other day, looking at like movies and like books and all this other stuff, and that's a big store, and they have a lot of stuff. And I'm just thinking, like, man, what does a store like this look like with even more physical media being produced? Like, how do you even operate?
Well, luckily, physical media nowadays, i.e., music, movies, they're not that great. So you might be able to have some room.
That doesn't change the fact that there's more stuff. That like the volume of
That's true.
potential
Yeah.
inventory is even more massive. I can remember game stores 20 years ago. There would be like, a small retro section of like Sega Genesis, Super Nintendo, Nintendo, then like the newer stuff, then like PlayStation 2 stuff, right? And you could fit everything in like in a generally small store, but like me and Gunnar will also we hit up a local game store in the city called J&L Games. So if you're ever in New York, checking them out, they're in Midtown Manhattan. We went there and like we were looking at games, but I was also looking at like the structure of how they had everything marketed and merchandised.
A lot of overlapping.
And fucking hell, like that's a super long store, but they have sections for everything. But I noticed that like, damn, like everything is spined. Like all these great Xbox games, spined just because they have to, right? Because they want to display as much as possible. But like they can't display it in the prettiest way because they just have that much volume of product. Not to mention the stuff they have in the backstock, I'm sure. So what does that look like for game stores in like 20 years, right? If assuming game stores still exist, which I'm sure they will. Think about how much inventory, how much physical space you would need to hold physical media. That's another problem. Why digital is a good thing, because it kind of relieves that space issue
burden,
and also that garbage issue, or like pollution, like just having more plastic in being thrown into the ocean or sent to the fucking space or sent on an island somewhere. Like there's a point of like we've exceeded the amount of space that we have to like store this stuff. So like I don't know. There's I'm not like an environmentalist or anything. I'm just aware of that potential problem too. So.
Oh yeah. I mean, I hate to say it, digital absolutely does have its benefits, as Kong eloquently so mentioned. But from a selfish perspective, I want ownership of the things that I purchase. If I'm going to work 40 to 50 hours a week, making hard-earned money, paying bills for, I'm paying bills for things that I already don't own, i.e. an apartment, paying utilities and so on and so forth. I would like to, at least for whatever disposable income I do have, to be able to buy something that I can actually own, that I can say, this is mine. I can pick it up when I want. Nobody can take it from me unless by force. It's mine. I have ownership of it. You know what I'm saying? And some people could be like, well, so you could acquire a house and things like that and blah, blah, blah. That's in the works, but that's not as easily obtainable as a game is, and I also enjoy just, coming into my room and looking at my collection and enjoying. It's pretty much like as Kong also stated, like a timestamp. Like I can look at each game that I walk past and think about all the times that I've acquired for each of them. Like, the PS2 games, like, oh, I remember fighting down the aisle with Wolf for this particular game when we was going retro hunting, or like, the collector's editions. I remember standing out in front of GameStop after 12 waiting for this collector to come out. So I also appreciate that aspect as well. With a digital game, it's just I remember just pressing X and then putting in my card information and I have it. There was no work to get it. There was no
story,
like
there's no history.
Memory. Yeah, no story, no history, no having discussions with people on the line who are like super hype, no cringe faces where I go to pick up Monster Hunter and that same night 2K is out and it's like, why the hell you getting that? Like, there's no discussions like that anymore. Not trying to, I'm just poking fun at the people who play 2K or whatnot. But yeah, there's this story behind that. There's appreciation. And I just think that digital games don't have that, along with the potential, anonymous removal of your games from the digital library. Like I don't know. Just call me a boomer, I guess.
Nah, I feel the same way. Yeah.
It's funny you mentioned.
Good luck. No. I was just gonna say, good luck to these guys. I hope this,
absolutely,
for their sake and everybody else's sake, Sony figures out what went wrong and rectifies it, because this is potentially brand damaging for them. So
Yeah, I'm gonna do my due diligence and create like a TikTok video, because it's easy discoverability there, and I think this is extremely important to be informed about. I unfortunately for the 50 plus users who do utilize Sony products, it's unfortunate that this happened to them. But if we can do our due diligence to make sure that it doesn't happen to another 50 more, or plus 50,000, as Kong stated earlier, um I'm going to try my best to kind of spread the word and let people know, because it's not just it being video game media. It could be anything that you put your hard-earned money into, and just to have it vanish within a matter of just a bug, or whatever um is occurring at this time. It's very heartbreaking to see.
Yeah,
yeah,
it
big
sucks,
time.
dude. Like you mentioned, like the story you were telling earlier, it was like a hypothetical. Getting off of work, coming home, and I'm gonna play this new game or whatever, or I'm gonna get back to playing Witcher, whatever it is. Like
Hmm.
you sit down and like you get hit with this fucking gut shot, man. Like, yeah, well, fuck you. Everything is just gone. It's like that's
Yeah.
enough to like drive somebody crazy, man. Because there are people that I know personally, and I'm sure a lot of people probably will hear this, where they have things rough, man. Like they got a family that they're having a hard time taking care of. Maybe they have relationship issues. They're having some like challenging emotional issues in general, or maybe having mental obstacles, work
Yeah.
obstacles, and then like your game is like the one place where like just gotta relax and just forget about all
You,
that stuff, and then to have that
your
ripped away
solace.
from you, that's rough, man. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think if
Some
you make that
people.
video, definitely, I left the article in the chat here, and like it'll be
Okay.
in the link description down. The description down below will have the link. So if you guys listening want to read the article and look for yourself, you're welcome to. But yeah, definitely take note of that error code, and like make it super clear that like you see this, you know, prepare, right? Gather all your evidence, gather all your receipts and screenshots, because you gonna have a rough few weeks trying to recover
Yeah.
your account. So
Yeah.
or avoiding the
Yeah.
bug altogether.
True.
All right. Do you guys have any other thoughts on the topic, or good to go home?
Nah, I think I said everything I needed to say.
Uh, Aside from my sincerest sympathies to those who were affected, hope you guys recover from such a drastic turn of events. Hopefully, Sony can remedy this issue, or maybe provide you guys with some type of compensation. Um, but yeah, I just hope that you guys. This might sound really bad, but I hope you guys find peace, or some type of resolution with
Namaste, bro.
what
Sorry for your
transpired.
loss.
It is definitely a loss, man. My condolences goes out to you and your systems for this situation here.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds kind of silly what you're saying, like because it sounds like the death of a family member or something, which obviously is a whole nother situation. It's more serious, but like
Yeah.
it is a heavy blow, and yeah, man, if you find yourself in the crossfires of this bug, if you decide to quit gaming, I get it, uh, but just remember, like, maybe physical media is the way, bro. Maybe
Yeah.
retro gaming is
Yep.
the way. Maybe not gaming at all is the way. I don't know. You'd have to figure that out. The reality of the situation is this has affected less than 1% of the PS5 player base. We're talking
Hmm.
50 people. That's nothing. Um, for the grand scheme of things, right? And Sony isn't exactly incentivized to make this a tier one priority because of the small scope of people that it's affected. So I could easily see them just brushing this off as an unfortunate event and being okay with losing those 50 consumers, because what does it
Yeah.
actually mean, grand scheme of things, to them when
Yeah.
they've sold whatever amount. What is it? Where are they now? PS5. PS5 sold like 50 mil, right? 60 mil, something like. I don't remember. I don't
Probably.
remember. But yeah, so good luck. For those who aren't affected, be aware of it. Again, the error code is CE-1177773-6. So that's 3 sevens in the middle. So, in any case, hopefully this podcast, this conversation was of interest, or at least educational. Leave a like on the video, dislike. Leave a comment down below. Let us know what you think about the whole situation. Let us know if you were affected by the bug. If you have a solution, right? If there's a solution that you found, definitely put that in the comments. Subscribe for more content. We do podcasts, general conversations every week. We publish every Wednesday at 12 p.m. Eastern. We also have links to our social medias in the description as well. So Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Discord, as well as Twitch. Mr. Esoteric streams 2 to 3 times a week on Twitch, and he streams a variety of games, so give him a follow, check him out. That being said, catch you in the next one.
Till next time.
Take care.